Hi, I'm Kristen Amdahl and welcome back to my studio. In these videos, I want to show you some tips and tricks for making the Larissa Crochet Motif Scarf. This beautiful scarf is a one-ball project. It is a simple one-round motif that is joined as you go without cutting yarn between motifs. It works up quickly with only 2 ends to weave in at the end and makes a fantastic last-minute gift. You will need 300 yards of No. 2 sport weight yarn, a G6 or 4mm crochet hook, yarn needle, and scissors. The project shown is in Sporty BLING yarn in color Meteor Shower. Okay, watch video part 1 to learn how to crochet the first row of motifs without cutting yarn. Then in the second video, learn how to do that for the second row of motifs. And now in this third video, I'm going to show you how we work the third row of motifs. And again, this is joining motifs as you go without cutting yarn. So the first motif in the third row starts in blue, and it starts with a chain 9, slip stitch to the 5th chain from your hook to count as your chain 5 ring, chain 3, slip stitch to the 3rd chain, skipping the last chain. You want to make sure this one's left exposed, and then double crochet in the ring. Chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, slip stitch to the adjacent motifs cluster stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochet cluster in the ring. That's all that we're going to do to partially complete this motif until we come around later, and we'll finish the motif later. So let me show you how we begin the first motif in the third row of motifs. Oh, also notice, because this is an offset pattern, notice that the beginning of the motif in row 2 is totally different than it is in row 3. And so if you're going to be modifying this pattern even further and doing more than four rows of motifs, it is rows 3 and 4 that you will repeat for your desired length, width, what have you. So we'll get back to here. So first motif on row 3 starts with a chain 9. Slip stitch to the 5th chain from your hook to form the ring, chain 3, slip stitch to the 3rd chain, making sure you leave the last chain unworked. Then working around those 2 chains, we'll work a double crochet in the ring, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, and then you want to slip stitch to the next cluster stitch on the adjacent motif, chain 3, then working in our first motif again, we'll work 1 more 3 double crochet cluster. And this is what your work should look like at the end of that first motif. Again, remember, this is an offset pattern, so this motif is tucked in a little bit behind this motif because this is the motif that's, you know, leaning to the right of this one, and this motif at the end of this row will extend out. So as you're doing offset patterns, they either go to the right or the left of the motif below, and that can be a little confusing at times, but anytime you're unsure if you joined to the right spot or not sure if you did everything correctly, always set your work down, because crochet happens to be anatomically correct with a chart, and anytime you can set your work down, you can line up what you've done with what it looks like on here, and a lot of times you can solve your own mistakes that way. All right, so we're moving on to the middle motif. This is the motif that you would repeat for as many times as necessary. This particular scarf is 30 motifs wide, so you would do this middle one 28 times. I did it 1 additional time for the reduced size sample, so you can see that that's the one we repeat. There's always a first motif at the beginning of a row and a last motif at the end of the row, and it is the middle one that will always be repeating. So this starts in blue, chain 9, slip stitch to the 5th chain from your hook to form the ring, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain, leaving that last chain unworked, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, slip stitch to the next adjacent motifs cluster stitch, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the next in the ring, slip stitch to the next cluster stitch, then chain 3 and 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, leaving the rest of the round unworked until later. So we'll do that with the yarn now. Chain 9, slip stitch to the 5th chain to form our ring, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain, leaving the last chain unworked, working over those two chain 3 spaces, 2 chain 3s, we'll work a double crochet in the ring, then chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, okay, now we need to find the next cluster stitch to join to. With a slip stitch, chain 3, then working back in our original motif, another 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, and then slip stitch to the next cluster stitch on the next adjacent motif on the row below with a slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochet cluster in the ring. Okay, so that's exactly what the chart said to do, and we did it as well. So this is the middle motif. This is the one that you would repeat for as many times as you need to in the middle. I'm going to do it one more time since we were doing, that's what we've been doing throughout this project. Okay, we've done our 2 middle ones. That's the ones that you would repeat for as many times as you need. And then let's look at the last motif on the 3rd row of motifs. This one is going to start with the same in blue, chain 9, slip stitch to the 5th chain from your hook to form the ring, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain, leaving the last chain unworked, double crochet in the ring, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, slip stitch to the adjacent motifs, cluster stitch, then chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, chain 3, and single crochet in the 1st chain at the beginning of the round to join. So let's do that right now with the yarn. So it's the chain 9, slip stitch to the 5th chain from your hook to form the ring, chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain, leaving the last chain unworked, then working over those 2 chain 3s, work a double crochet in the ring, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, and then slip stitch to the adjacent motifs, cluster stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochet cluster in our ring, and we'll do that 3 more times. Chain 3 and single crochet in the 1st chain at the beginning of the round to join. So now we have completed the last motif on the 3rd row of motifs, and we'll refer back to our chart now to finish up the middle motifs. Both of the middle motifs here, or all 28 of the middle motifs if you're doing the scarf, is followed in red, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, times 2, chain 3, and single crochet in the chain 1 space at the beginning of the round to join the motif. So let's do that on our 2 middle ones. Chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster in the ring, times 2, chain 3, and single crochet to the 1st chain at the beginning of the round to join. And so our first middle motif is completed. We'll do that again for our 2nd middle motif. Okay, and you would repeat that for as many times as necessary for however many middle motifs you have in your project. And then let's come back to the chart, and we're only going to be partially completing the first motif because we won't be finishing the first motifs until we're done with the whole project. And I'll show you that at the end of the next video. So at this point, to partially finish the first motif for the row 3 of motifs, it is chain 3, 3 double crochet, cluster in the ring, times 2, and that's where we'll pick up in blue to start the fourth row of motifs in the next video. But let's go ahead and do that partial here. So it is chain 3, 3 double crochet, cluster in the ring, times 2, okay, and this is what your work should look like at the end of the third row of motifs. Most of the motifs are completed, but at that final column of the first motifs won't be done until we're finished with the end of our fourth row of motifs, or whatever row ends up being your final row, depending on how big you're making your project. If you're making the Larissa scarf, we're doing 4 rows of 30 motifs. And so in the next video, I'll show you how we do the fourth row of motifs and finish up the whole project. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all about anything we talked about in this video, please leave them for me in the comments. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. I'll see you in the next video.